We are live. What is up, swimmers and swammers? Welcome back to the SwimSwam Breakdown. As always, I'm your host, Coleman Hodges, coming to you from Brooklyn, New York. I'm joined by SwimSwam's Nicole Miller. She's coming to us from Worcester, Massachusetts. And we are here to talk about the NCAA mid-season week. I feel like this is the stuff of lore at this point, of college swimming lore, at least. This is a big part and has become an even bigger part as the years have gone by of the college season. It is a week where a lot of teams go to a prelims finals invite. They suit up and they typically swim either kind of fast to really, really, really fast. And so we are going to be talking about some of the more major ones today. And that's going to be our breakdown. Nicole, thanks so much for being here. How excited are you for this mid-season meet week?
Oh, I'm super excited. I mean, NCAAs are still a few months out, so we've got some time, but this is really such a fun time of year, and it really sets kind of the precedent for the rest of the season as we move to championships and into that NCAA realm.
Yeah, no, this is going to be a really good marker. And I think, a few years ago, it wasn't so long ago, maybe it was like 4 or 5, I think it was post-pandemic, but Andy Grievers at Mizzou, the head coach of the University of Missouri, was like, hey, listen, we're going to suit up for every dual meet this year. And it sounds kind of crazy, but that's what we're going to do. And people had a lot of strong reactions to that. And I just want to give a shout out to Andy Grievers because I think he has set the tone for what we now view as the NCAA landscape, because most teams are suiting up every time they are racing now. And we as swim fans have truly become the beneficiaries, because I think this is the fastest top to bottom we've ever seen the NCAA at this point before having even a mid-season championship week.
Yeah, and you definitely look at it. I remember that being one of the big talking points during my first year or so at SwimSwam was how are teams going to react to this whole idea of suiting up, and even just the cost associated with having athletes suit up at every race, the mentality. And I think as a whole, the swimming world has definitely benefited from it. We really got a lot of the teams got faster. They've been throwing down really exciting results, even in their first 1 or 2 meets of the season. So it kind of adds an extra level of excitement knowing what these swimmers could do with a little bit of rest on top of adding the suit.
Yeah, like we've really gone from, or at least many teams, and certainly many of the top teams, we've seen go from having this, fall season where Eddie Reese's Texas teams famously would go through, the real walk through the coals with Rocktober, where they would swim incredibly slow, right, for being the national champions or for being a national champion caliber team. And many teams would do this, right, where they would just be at rock bottom and then they'd kind of slowly move up throughout the season and then swim really fast at NCAAs. And now we've just seen that floor get almost to NCAA caliber times, where teams are still kind of having that progression, but they are starting out really, really fast, like throwing down times that would be top 8 at NCAAs. Then we're seeing them just get faster and faster throughout the season, and to the point where, yeah, mid-season, we're going to be discussing this later, but it's like, will we see NCAA records fall? Because that's just how far the bar has been raised at this point.
Exactly. And like last year, we already saw some of those records fall last year. And even with the loss of Gretchen and Alex Walsh and some of these swimmers who were very consistently breaking NCAA records, you still kind of have this landscape where you could see 1 or 2 records fall very easily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like you said, it doesn't even necessarily have to come from those swimmers that are bona fide superstars of the sport at this point, right? That are world champions or Olympic champions or even NCAA champions. Like at this point, people are swimming so fast that it could come from someone who you're kind of like, wait, them? They did it. Or it could come from relays, right? Where you don't necessarily know every single person on that team exceedingly well. They're not a household name in swimming, but they could throw down something really, really spicy and be a part of history, either individually or on a relay. So we'll get into more names. We'll get into more times. Let's dive into a few of these specific meets and just kind of start from the top. We've already actually started one of these meets, the Georgia Fall Invitational, which let me note that numerous of these mid-season invitationals or meets are adopting the new NCAA event format. So that is the Georgia Fall Invite, Ohio State's Fall Invite, South Carolina's Gamecock Invitational, and NC State's Wolfpack Elite Invitational. Will all be using the new NCAA championship format that was approved this October. And I'm not going to go through event by event, but you can find it on SwimSwam. It's different than the previous format. Most notably, I would say for right now, for day one, the mile is on day one of the NCAA championships, in addition to the 200 medley and 800 free relays. And so we already saw the mile happen at the Georgia Fall Invite, where Ahmed Jouadi 14:39, and then Kennedy Dobson 15:47, I think it was.
Yes.
So already some pretty solid mile times there. But from the Georgia Fall Invite, let's start there. Nicole, who are you most excited to see compete in Athens this weekend?
I actually am a big Kennedy Dobson fan, so I was very excited to see her mile. I was just looking at the results and seeing that she did that so good, especially as a freshman. I think that her ceiling in that event specifically is going to be very high this season. And hopefully that carries over into her 500, which we will see later in the competition. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to. Distance is kind of a field where you see a lot of growth in college. And I feel as though that could be huge for her.
Already been 4:33 this season in a dual meet.
And 4:33 would probably place top, and any given year would place top 10, 8 at NCAAs. So there's really, I mean, I could see her easily going under 4:30 by the end of the season, maybe even this week.
Maybe even tomorrow, or whenever the 500 is. That would be day 3 now. But yeah, no, I think she's going to be certainly one to watch. And again, it did feel like after last year we lost a lot of star power, or a lot of NCAA stalwarts that have been impressing us year after year in college swimming. But the field is still so deep. Just like you said, in the 500 free alone, we've had 11 women under 440 in the 500 free, and it's not even midseason yet. We have at the top, as you said, Kennedy Dobson and Jillian Cox, 2 rising distance females who seem like they will be going at it at NCAAs. That is not to mention Claire Weinstein, who's currently ranked 4th in the nation, another freshman who has a lot of firepower in those distance events, as we know. And that's kind of just the tip of the iceberg. So a lot of really fast fields shaping up that, certainly Kennedy Dobson will have her hands full in some of those distance battles.
Oh, definitely. I'm very excited to see once March hits and all those teams get into the pool together. Those are going to be some of the events to watch. I don't think anybody's going to be touching Katie Ledecky's records in either the 500 or the 1650, but you never know at this point. I mean, people are just swimming so fast.
It truly does feel like a different world in swimming right now. And we just saw a Katie Ledecky world record get broken at the World Cup, right? Lonnie Pallister, who gave Katie a run for her money in the 800 this summer at World Champs, comes to the U.S., comes to her home turf, and breaks her world record in the 800 free. So it doesn't feel like that's probable, like you said, with this current distance field. But man, Jillian Cox, what a season she had last year, winning the 500 and the mile at NCAA's. Like it seems like, maybe she could approach it, right? And if especially at a midseason meet, if these women are approaching those records in November, maybe that then gives them a a little adrenaline boost and gives them notions of, okay, maybe I could get that record.
Yeah, I mean, Cox carried herself so well at NCAA's last year. All of her swims were very mature, especially as a freshman, at such a big competition. I mean, she obviously had some international experience under her belt, which definitely played a part, but just seeing the way that she carried herself and the maturity of which she approached all of her races last year, I think that she has such a solid platform to build on.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be really exciting to see what she can do at the Texas Invite, which we'll get to in a minute. But yes, sticking with that Georgia Invite, I think it'll be really exciting to see Kennedy Dobson. Another woman I'm excited to see race is Anita Battazzo from Florida. She's already been 56.8 in the 100 breast this season at a dual meet. And so she had a good season last year, and she had a good summer, I think, swimming for Italy. But man, has she carried some kind of momentum into this season so far, because I believe she's also thrown down a really fast 50 breast. Yeah, 26:41 on a relay so far as well, just behind Aneli Jefimova's 26:3 from the Raleigh Rumble.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah. And, as we move through the season, those breaststroke leg is going to be a key leg in Florida's relay down the line as they look for the 2 medley and the 4 medley at NCAA's. So having somebody as strong as her could be a huge difference maker for the team.
Yeah. I mean, it's the Florida women have been steadily on the rise, steadily kind of building a really strong core. Certainly the loss of Bella Sims doesn't help them, especially in those relays. But I think Anita Battazzo has certainly kind of stepped up her game in light of that and said, you know what, I can do my part. And I'm going to make, like you said, especially those medley relays, a force to be reckoned with through those first 2 legs. So yeah, really excited to see what she can throw down. Once again, just the breaststroke depth in the NCAA on the women's side is so deep right now, especially in that 100. 12 women have already been under 59 seconds, which this just doesn't sound real to me. Like this, not long ago, that was the results at NCAA's. You had a 56.8 winning, and then it's a few women going 57s and a bunch of women going 58s. And now that is October.
Yeah.
So
it's October, and it might not even get you into the top 20 at NCAA's soon. So.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. So that will be exciting to watch. Any other athletes? I've got one in mind, but I want to defer to you. Any other athletes you're excited to see this weekend at Georgia? Which, by the way, we've got Georgia, Georgia Tech, Alabama, Florida, Florida State, and LSU all competing in Athens this week. So that there should be some very good competition there. But anyone else you're excited about, Nicole?
I actually was looking, and I am really hoping that he does end up competing this weekend. But we all know Luca Orlando is coming back to Georgia again after winning the World Championship gold in the 200 butterfly this summer. So having him back in the short course pool where he held the American record, I forget if he still currently holds it in the 100 backstroke, as well as being one of the top 200 butterflies in history. I think that's going to be very exciting to see.
So Hubert Koch, I'm pretty sure, broke his 100 back record.
Yes.
But he had it for
a while.
Yeah, a few years, and no one expected him to break it.
No.
So I think he told us last year at NCAA's he has 2 years of eligibility left, which doesn't seem real, but with the COVID fifth years, I think he like took a red shirt and then also had a COVID year. And so I'm sure if he says that, that is correct. But hopefully we will end up seeing him compete this year. He's already has the second best time in the 200 fly, fourth best time in the 100 fly in the nation. And I believe, let me pull up the schedule real quick. I believe the schedule is now conducive for him to swim the 100 fly and the 200 fly or back or IM in that order at this championship format. So maybe we get a little preview of 100 back Luca Orlando this weekend.
Yeah, and I mean, he almost ended up doing it for the American men this summer at the World Championships. As we reported earlier, he did end up doing a swim off to swim the 100 back at Worlds. He didn't end up getting as part of the relay, and he didn't end up getting the spot, but he threw down a pretty solid time considering that he was training for the 200 fly at the time specifically.
Yeah, and I think we all kind of know he has superior underwaters. I think his long course backstroke probably isn't quite at the same level as his short course backstroke, but it is good enough for him to be considered for a spot on the medley relay when everyone else is puking and being sick. So like it can't be that bad. So he's got the backstroke in his back pocket. Certainly. So yeah, exciting to see him. One other swimmer I'm particularly excited to see is Michael Arkhangelski. I don't know if I'm saying that right. French swimmer, competes for Florida State, butterfly and backstroke specialist as well. So kind of a similar archetype to maybe a Luca Orlando. Does maybe not quite have the medley in his arsenal, but he was throwing down last year at ACCs. He had a great, I think he placed second or third in the 100 fly and the 100 back, maybe even the 200 back. And I'm guessing that would be his event lineup for this new format: 1 fly, 1 back, 2 back. But excited to see what he can do coming from Florida State. He was a freshman last year, and so I'm guessing he is a swimmer to kind of keep an eye on, just because I think he might take that leap from freshman to sophomore season, having a little more experience under his belt. So that's who I'm keeping my eyes on this weekend.
Definitely. And he already holds a ton of school records just as a sophomore. So I think even if we're not looking at the national scale records, I think you should keep an eye on the FSU record board this week.
We could see all kinds of records falling this week, certainly. So let's move on to the Ohio State Fall Invite, also starting today, and also has that new NCAA format. Participating schools: Ohio State, Indiana, Yale, Cincinnati, Notre Dame, Louisville, Penn State, UCLA, Kentucky, Purdue. So a ton of schools at this one, and a lot of names to watch. Nicole, who stands out to you for this OSU Midwest Throwdown?
Well, I mean, just in general, I think the Indiana women this year have a lot of depth, and I think that that's a team you should keep an eye on just in general. They've made that push into the top 4 or 5 in NCAA's past couple of years, and they graduated a couple of big names. I believe that they graduated Anna Plowski already this year. So that's a big loss for them. But I think that they, like, so far this season have already kind of overperformed expectations.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they threw down some really good times at the USC Invite. I feel like there was another either dual meet or tri meet where the IU women just kind of steamrolled. And I think Miranda Grana is kind of leading that charge. She's kind of been a revelation for the Indiana women in butterfly and backstroke events. She's already been 51.5. She's number 7 in the country right now in the 100 fly. She is number 5 in the 100 back at 50.7, and she is number 2 in the 200 back at 149.8. And she also gets slotted into free relays and throws down there. And so after last season was her first season, I believe, after transferring from Texas A&M. And again, she's kind of hit that second season bump of like she's gotten a year under her belt and now she's rolling.
Yes, and I believe she was top 8 in multiple events at NCAA's last year. So she definitely saw that level of success on the national level last year. But specifically the fly back, I think this new schedule is going to benefit her a lot. She's definitely going to be able to kind of put her focus a little bit more on her individual events instead of looking at the day as a whole of I have swum both the 100 fly and the 100 back kind of back to back.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is, there's never going to be a perfect event schedule, I don't think. But it is nice specifically for that kind of athlete that you used to have to pick between the 100 fly and the 200 fly, and then, the 100 fly and the 100 back, or some people would do the double, and then the 200 fly or the 200 back, unless you're Brendan Burns 1 year. And so it's nice that now at least the 100 fly and the 100 back are on separate days. And so the 2 fly and the 2 back are still on the same day. So you still have to pick that. And now the 2 IM is also on the same day, which is the last day. So that's not great, but at least now 100 fly, 100 back, people can swim both and not have to worry about that double, as you said.
Yeah, and she's already hit faster times so far this year than she did up through a majority of last year. So I think that she's already building on a really strong track based on what you said. The 50 point, I believe you said 50.5 in the 100 backstroke.
Yeah.
Yeah. She last year in February was a 50.6. So she's already exceeded where she was last year.
Yeah, that's again, just to speak to how fast everyone is swimming right now. There's just a lot of it happening, and it's quite exciting. I think we're going to see a lot of good times. I'm pretty stoked to see how the Indiana men do after competing for an NCAA team title last year and just kind of falling short. They ended up third, but I think they were 20, 30 points behind the Texas men and the Cal men. They're looking to make a real go of it. And obviously the ASU men are looking really good as well. And I don't think anyone will catch the Texas men, but they have a lot of depth. They have a lot of speed across multiple events. And they lost a ton of men who were scorers, especially in the breaststroke events. But as they have done over the years, it seems like they just have the next guy stepping up. And especially with, I'm guessing, a pretty stout post-grad group, you still kind of have that leadership of teaching the younger guys how to be elite and how to be elite in the college ranks, because these guys have done it before. So it looks like they have the building blocks to have a really exciting season. And again, I think we'll get to see a preview of that in OSU this weekend.
Yeah, they definitely were one of those teams that almost got overshadowed by the fact that the Texas men and the Cal men were doing so good. And then they popped into NCAAs and kind of sent a couple shockwaves through the field. I feel like a lot of people were genuinely surprised, especially if they don't necessarily follow NCAA swimming throughout the season as much as they do during the championships.
Mm-hmm.
But they definitely have a very solid, I think that their freshman group this year is going to be a key component of their efforts, because they have some big names in their freshman group. I mean, they have Josh Bay. I'm looking at their roster right now. Yeah, they have a couple. They have a redshirt freshman returning. Oh, and obviously they have Andrew Shackle coming in, which huge name right there. So that's going to play a key component, is how those freshmen transition. And this is kind of the first test of that you get to see.
Well, and yeah, let's all of the Shackles, right? So they've got Alex Shackle on the women's side coming in. They've got Aaron Shackle, 400 free Olympian. And so again, we've seen Aaron bounce around a couple times. He was at Cal, he was at Texas, he was training at Carmel. He had a great summer training at home this year. And then so we'll see how he can do at his third college. And then we'll see how Alex can slot in as well. So hopefully we'll get to see both of them compete. As if you didn't know, both Olympians, but it'll be exciting to see them swim as well. Yeah. One other swimmer I do want to shout out individually is Louisville's Guy Brooks. He's currently second in the country right now at a 132.22 in the 200 free, only behind Georgia's Tomas Koski. So we'll get to see both these guys in action. And behind Koski by 3/100ths. Louisville, I feel like, is a team, is like the epitome to me of a sleeper team where they're kind of always there, and they don't always do what a lot of what many other teams are doing now, which is swimming really, really fast in the season. But man, they know how to perform when they want to, whether that's at the conference championships or the NCAA championships. I can't say that's the case this season because they've had some really fast swims so far. 132.2, 200 free at a dual meet. Coupled that with, on the women's side, Julia Dennis, 21.21 in the 50 free so far. They also have Caroline Larson, 21.7 already this season. Larson has also been 47.38, and Julia Dennis was 47.52. So they've got some serious players. They've got some serious speed. And I'm really excited to see how they can carry that into midseason, because again, I think of Louisville as a team who kind of had that model of, we're going all in for the end of the season. And now that just doesn't seem to work as well anymore.
And they've definitely evolved over the past couple of years. You've seen it as their results have kind of, like a lot of teams, have just gradually become faster and faster in season. But that sprint group for Louisville has been kind of their bread and butter over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Julia Dennis was a huge addition to the team when she came on, and they've had a ton of success within the sprint freestyle realm. And I'm excited to see how that transitions into the 200 and the 500, kind of as they could keep developing with some new athletes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So there are a lot of interesting teams, and I think a lot of these teams mentioned, Yale, Cincinnati, Notre Dame, Kentucky, have a few swimmers that could really put themselves in the mix to maybe score or final at NCAAs, and even have in the past. So keep an eye out on that invite. But for right now, we're going to move on to the Texas Hall of Fame invite, where we will see Texas A&M, USC, the Stanford Women, Wisconsin, Pitt, and Northwestern. A lot of strong teams, but my eyes immediately go to Texas, who defending champion on the men's side, defending number 3 on the women's side, and the Stanford Women, who are the defending number 2. So many elite level and top level swimmers there. Nicole, do you have a few favorites that you're really going to have your eyes on?
I mean, for Texas, especially on the women's side, you've got to look at Anna. I'm going to mispronounce her last name. Eldent. Is that how you say it? From Germany.
Oh, Anna Ellent.
Ellent. Okay. Yes.
I think she's a pro now. I don't think she's on the team anymore.
I was so excited to see her this weekend because she had such a great summer. But that's just a testament to how well that Texas group has been developing. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we already talked about Jillian Cox. She's had such a great freshman year. Yeah. And as she moved into the sophomore year, I would love to see her kind of raise the bar on those distance events, as we already talked about.
No, I absolutely. And that's a high bar to raise, because this meet last year was when Jillian Cox went her best time. She was 4:30, I think 0.8, I want to say, in the 500. It was also on the men's side when Carson Foster time trialed the 500 free, broke the American record, went 4:05, and then an hour later, Rex Maurer, his teammate, went 4:04. And so really excited to see, we're going to see another Carson Foster time trial, because he was tearing it up at the World Cup this fall in short course meters, specifically in the distance events. He was only swimming 4 IM, 4 free in the mile. But then B, also, obviously, Rex Maurer, defending NCAA champion in the 4 IM and 500 free, almost broke that American record this summer in the 400 free, but did make the world's team 343. So we will see if the trend continues of him going really fast at this midseason meet.
Yeah, I mean, Rex Maurer had his college transition was one of the best that I think I've noted in recent years, where he's just really exploded in the past year and become one of the top U.S. threats on the distance scene in an area where we were really lacking for a couple of years. Then we have all these athletes who have risen into contention, and I'm very excited to see what he can do, because I feel like he really just started to explore his limits at the end of last season.
Yeah, it didn't take long for him to react positively to the Bob Bowman training, certainly. And I mean, we saw it take hold 3 or 4 months after he got to Austin, I think. He was training there for the summer, I believe. But yeah, it seems like he has reacted really well. I'm really excited to see that, like you said, the men's, specifically 400 free, was lacking a bit. We saw kind of a bump this summer, but then obviously everyone got sick at World Champs and we didn't get to see the full results of that. I'm really excited for this summer. Pan Pacs, it's in Irvine, the big focus meet. Everyone already on the team already knows who they are and what they'll be swimming. And so hopefully there's no illness, but I feel like this is kind of a softball for Team USA after having to go through all of that illness. It's like, hey, come have your championship meet at Irvine. You know, it's familiar food. It's a great pool. You know, everyone on Team USA has raced there multiple times. It's like, specifically Rex Maurer who's from Southern California, has swam there his whole life. So it's like, I really hope he can throw down a good 400 free there.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that having their events already set kind of gives them the flexibility this year to kind of lock down on what they're training. So, you know, you might see some more of these NCAA distance stars doing even better in these distance events because they've been able to shift their focus towards a specific event. Like Rex Maurer, his 500 this season could potentially be something special.
We could, I mean, I think when Leon Marchand went 402, everyone was like, well, that's not going down for a while. And now I think people are like,
Yeah.
like we were saying, could happen. I just did a podcast with Luka Mijatovic, who committed to Texas recently, was the other male U.S. athlete who made the world champ team in the 400 free this summer. He's already been 410. I asked him, when are we going to see a sub 4 minute 400, 500 yard freestyle? He said next year. He's like, not this year at NCAAs, but next year. So who knows? Rex might go 402 this weekend with the trajectory that Mr. Mijatovic sees us on right now.
Yeah. Yeah. If you were watching, I could completely see that happen. It's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, no, it could happen. One other swimmer I want to shout out, well, quickly, Tori Husk, always exciting for the Stanford Women, Olympic champion, world champion. She's done it all. NCAA champion. She will obviously be competing for the Stanford Women. She's number 1 in the country right now in the 400 IM, which she swam at the Cal Stanford triple distance meet. And I found that really interesting. She was 404.2. Again, with the new event schedule, who knows what's going to happen, how it's going to go down. But it would be really interesting to see her. It's the same day as the 100 fly, so I doubt it, but be really interesting if she swam it. But who I really want to shout out is Lucy Bell, who is the defending NCAA champion in the 200 breast for the Stanford Women and was already 204.7 at that triple distance meet, which was like 3 or 4 tenths off of what she won NCAAs with. And that that made me do something I didn't think I would have to do for a long, long time, which is look at Kate Douglas's American record in tuner breasts to be like, is she going to get close to that? Like, whoa, 204.7 in essentially October, early November. Maybe it was October before midseason. Like, she's obviously gotten a huge confidence boost from last season, or I hope. But something has clicked, and she seems like she's on it this season. So really excited to see how she reacts to racing in Austin this week.
Yeah, I think last year Belle was one of the surprises of NCAA's when she won the national title in 200 breaststroke.
I think she surprised herself.
She did. I mean, her reaction was fantastic, and it was one of my favorite moments of the championships to see that. But I definitely think she's building off that momentum so well. I mean, she had a very good summer as well at the U.S. trials. Even though she didn't make the world's team, she had some very solid performances. And I think that she will certainly be somebody to watch. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that we were looking at Lily King, and her throwing down a 204 was kind of inhuman. And now I think that bar has been raised to a degree that we almost can't fathom.
No kidding. Yeah. Kate Douglas did wonders for the record books. That's certainly true. But you know what? It might be Lucy Bell's time now. So again, we have a lot of these swimmers who aren't necessarily the top of the top in terms of international competition and household names, but this is a season for a lot of those swimmers to work their way up there, I think, and surprise some of us. So anyone else competing in Austin this weekend that you want to shout out before we move on?
I mean, while we're on the topic of breaststrokes, I think we have to talk about Campbell McKean, who was another big surprise this summer, making the U.S. team in the 100 breaststroke. And actually leading the country in the 100 breaststroke. He, as a freshman, I think he will have to see how he adapts to that Bob Bowman hardcore Texas training style. But I am really excited to see what he does.
Yeah. So as you said, his teammate Nate German-Prey is actually leading the country 50.6, and Campbell is fifth at 51.6, which for a freshman, 51.6 in October. Again, I feel like I'm in an alternate dimension of that is so fast.
Exactly. Like, it wasn't that long ago that sub 50 100 breaststroke was sent shockwaves through the swim community. And now it's something that could be extremely realistic for multiple swimmers to be hitting in October. And I honestly think that his ceiling is probably higher than his time reflects right now, especially when you consider the momentum that he's coming off of from the summer and how much time he dropped in the long course pool.
Absolutely. I mean, 58.9 in the long course pool, no joke. He's also sitting at sixth in the country in the tuner breast, 153.3. And Nate German-Prey is second, his teammate, at 152.2. But again, I think Nate German-Prey is coming off an incredible season last year, and I think he's going to keep building on that momentum. But like you said, probably taking a little bit for Campbell McKean to adjust just to college life and Texas training. And, if he gets a few days of rest coming into this invite, we could see some big drops, which would be really exciting. Okay, that's the Texas invite. I want to highlight one more before we wrap this up. We've got the Wolfpack Elite invite. We're going to see NC State, Virginia Tech, Army, Duke, Arizona, Auburn, George Washington, and BYU there. SMU invite, where we'll see SMU, Stanford Men, Drury, Hawaii, Utah, Air Force Men, North Texas, Arkansas, and Notre Dame diving. We've got the Mizzou invite featuring Missouri, TCU, Wyoming, FIU, Missouri S&T, SIU, and McKendree. But the last meet I want to talk about is the CSCAA Dual Meet Challenge, where we will see a series of dual meets, the likes of which we've kind of never seen before. It will be a dual meet, essentially tournament, which we saw a dual meet tournament earlier in the season, hosted by Georgia Tech. But this will be a little bit different of a format. And we've got one team from each of the Big Four conferences. We've got Virginia from the ACC, Michigan from the Big Ten, Tennessee from the SEC, and Arizona State from the Big 12. Tennessee will be hosting, but this is a lot of heavy hitters. And certainly I would say the majority of our big college stars who aren't in Texas, I think will be here. I'm not saying everyone. I don't want anyone to feel left out, but there will be a lot of firepower at this meet. Nicole, I'll let you start on this one. Who are you most excited to see dive in Knoxville?
I mean, after her midseason performance last year, I have to say I'm extremely excited to see what Claire Curzan does for the Virginia women. Last year, she set the NCAA record in the 200 backstroke at midseasons, and they kind of had a unique midseason format last year where they were doing like the shootout style racing. So I think it's very interesting having that head to head versus just a normal, 8 swimmer field, 6 swimmer field, whatever it may be. And kind of how she handles that pressure, especially racing over 3 days where you're competing in multiple meets. So it's going to be very interesting to see that. And she also had a very good summer of redemption after missing the Olympic team in 2024. So she will be one of the top names that I will be watching at any meet this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Claire Curzan is seems like a leader at this point on the Virginia team after they lost the Walsh sisters in just a huge scoring class last year. They've kind of retooled, and it's like business as usual for the UVA women this season. They look dominant, and they are certainly the favorites to defend their NCAA team title. With Bryn Greenwald, Sarah Curtis, Amy Canny, seemingly have all just come in and slotted in great with Bryn and Sarah. Amy Canny's been on the team, but it looks like she has leveled up as well. You got Claire Curzan just doing her thing. No problem. That's kind of the tip of the iceberg for the UVA women. They've got such great depth and so many women who can very legitimately score at NCAAs that it's exciting anytime they dive in the water. But I'm honestly almost more excited to see the UVA men this weekend. Yes. Who seem to have gotten some new life with this freshman class, specifically Thomas Heilman and Maximus Williamson. Maximus, for his part, 3rd in the country right now in the 200 free at 132.3. He's also 10th in the country at 42.0 so far. And then if we look at Thomas Heilman, he is 3rd at 44.5 in the 100 fly and 5th at 141.6 in the 200 fly. That's just in their best events, but they have both looked very good as who's so far. And so to see them come into this meet, get a little rest, I feel like it's also given life to the other men on the team. They had a couple really standout freshmen, Spencer Nichols and David, I'm going to forget his last name. Hold on. David King, who's currently 3rd in the country in the tuner back, 139.8. They both swam really well last season as freshmen, and it seems like they've continued that momentum as sophomores. So we'll be really excited. Also, Maximus Williamson has been taking on breaststroke duties on their relays, on their medley relays. And so that's always fun to see. But yeah, definitely excited to see how those UVA men react to this midseason meet. Also want to shout out just the ASU men who have gotten also a shot in the arm, a ton of transfers, a ton of firepower. Remy Fabiani, Adam Chaney. We have a few other names that I'm missing, but their sprint core is ridiculous. You've got Ilya Karoun, Johnny Kulo, Tolu Young has thrown his name in there as his Quinn sider. Tommy Palmer, who transferred from Arizona last year. They all men who have been 42.3 or better in the 100 free so far this season. We've seen 8 men go 41 in the 100 free. Again, in October. It blows my mind, but the ASU men right now on our power rankings, we have them at second, and it looks like they have a very strong case to get second at the NCAAs later in the year. But it'll be really exciting to see. They've already swum so fast this season. It's like, will they go faster? If so, how much? It can't be that much, can it?
Yeah, and especially you mentioned like their depth, specifically in the freestyle sprint events right now. Like that is going to be huge for them as they move into March and into championship season, because those are worth double the amount of points in NCAAs and could very well be the difference between them getting second or pushing Texas for first even, which, I mean, Texas is out there right now as the clear-cut favorites, but it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah. No, it's certainly not. And a lot of guys on that ASU men's team were a part of it when they did win 2 years ago under Bob Bowman as the head coach. And now with Herbie, they have the championship DNA, and they have the blueprint for how to win an NCAA title or what that kind of work looks like. And so it's like they're going to go for it, right? And whether or not they can topple Texas, which is a very tall task, I think, they know what it takes to win. And especially on some of those relays, like you said, they look really good.
Yeah. And I mean, last year for them, like with the departure of Bowman at the end of the prior season, kind of was setting the precedent for how they want this program to move forward. They had a lot of transfers, but they got a lot of really good names in, and now they're just building upon that, and it continues to build up.
Yeah. Yep. What they've done, especially with their sprint core, has been paramount, and it's really going to be really exciting to see how they move forward. I also want to shout out Tennessee's sprint core because last year they set NCAA records in the 200 and 400 free relays, won NCAA titles, and then half of their core, Jordan Crooks included, NCAA record holder in the 100 free, left, graduated, but the two that remain, Guy Karib, who had an excellent summer, was 47 low in the 100, as well as Nikolai Blackman, are just carrying on without them business as usual. Blackman's already been 42.2. Guy has already been 41.6 in the 100. And then you take a look on the women's side, Camille Spink has already been 21.3 in the 50 and 46.54 in the 100. And she's not even first in the country because Virginia's Anna Moish has been 46.53, 1/100th faster. And they will be going head to head this weekend. So really, there's going to be a lot of speed in that pool. And I, for one, am stoked to see it. Anyone else you want to mention from this CSCAA dual meet challenge before we end with a couple sinker swims, Nicole?
I mean, I think somebody else that you got to keep in the back of your mind as kind of a big threat, as you mentioned, Anna Moish. I think her and Spink, that was going to be one of my like key matchups for the weekend. They've been kind of going head to head since high school. I feel like nationally they've been the top two sprinters kind of out of that group of athletes. Oops, I'm sorry. Out of that group of swimmers that kind of emerged in those two classes. So I think that's going to be a huge storyline. But also, Lana Pudar has been competing for UVA, and she's one of the top international swimmers to be kind of in this field, and has historically been amongst kind of in that mix of not necessarily top tier international swimmers, but like just below the Katie Ledeckis, and kind of always consistently there in international fields for the past couple of years.
Yeah. And we haven't seen her perform we haven't seen her trajectory go where we might have thought it would have gone the last year or two internationally. And I think it'll be really interesting to see how she reacts to a whole new training environment, and certainly a championship training environment at UVA. She's been 52.7 in the 100 fly and 156 in the 200 fly so far this season. So solid times. But again, with a little bit of rest, a lot can change.
Exactly. And that freshman adjustment, especially coming in as an international student who probably has never seen a short course pool in her life,
Yeah.
could just be very well be the difference.
Yeah, let's keep in mind that Bosnia and Herzegovina probably pretty different in many ways than Charlottesville, Virginia. So I'm sure there's an adjustment period there. But yeah, there's all to say there's going to be a lot of fast swimming this weekend. SwimSwam will have the full coverage, and we're going to wrap this podcast up with just a couple sink or swims. First up, on sink or swim, Nicole, will we see any NCAA records fall this weekend?
I think we will see at least one. I'm hoping for two.
Okay, so you're swimming it.
I'm swimming it, yes.
You're swimming NCAA records. I am too. I think especially with relays, and dude, relays have gotten those relay records have gotten ridiculous. And obviously some of the best swimmers in NCAA history have been on those NCAA record setting relays that we've seen out of the last couple of years. But between those ASU men, between maybe even those Virginia women, I think it's possible, and again, we've got a lot of individuals who could pop. Luca Orlando could break his own 200 fly record. Who knows? And there's a lot of possibilities. I think we'll see one or two because typically in a midseason meet week, there's always at least one really big surprise that everyone kind of goes, what? So I'm with you there. All right. Last sink or swim. We've only got a couple. Will the top two teams in each gender, according to the SwimSwam pre-mid-season meet week power rankings, that is Texas and Arizona State on the men's side, and Virginia and Stanford on the women's side, will those top two teams hold their spots after this weekend? So essentially, will you be convinced that those are the top two teams in the country after this weekend?
See, I'm going to go with sink on that, and only because I feel as though you could potentially see a big push from the Texas women, specifically on the women's side, as they continue to build into their season. And I really feel like we haven't seen the best from them, and there's so much more swimming to come. And that field, especially, I don't think that they're going to bump out UVA out of that top spot, but I think that battle between them and Stanford is going to be super interesting as the season evolves.
Nicole, we're on the same page today. I was going to sink it, and I was going to sing it for the exact reason. I think it's notable. I love a home court advantage. The invite is in Austin. They're going to have a big Texas crowd. I think Texas swimmers historically swim great at UT. But I do think the Texas women could push the Stanford women out of that top two spot. And there's a couple of reasons. One, last year at NCAAs, it was quite close between them. It wasn't like Stanford was like that clear number two. But also, I think Stanford has a few real bona fide studs at this point, right? Caroline Bricker, Lucy Bell, Tori Husk, obviously. But outside of that, I think their team is not as battle tested. And certainly Texas is quite young as well. But you've got a new head coach in Chris Lindauer, who had great success at Notre Dame, and the Stanford women seem to be rolling at this point. But, I got to see it. Carol Capitani's been at Texas for well over a decade at this point. Mitch has established himself as a great associate head coach, and he obviously knows what he's doing for his part. And I trust them that they're gonna get this young team in action and going this weekend. And I think we're going to see some really exciting things from the Longhorns. So I think after this weekend, we'll be a little higher on Texas than we are on Stanford as a team. But I think we're going to see sensational swims from both of them and from all teams around the country this weekend. Nicole, anything else before we sign off?
I also think that something that we have to kind of just touch on is, even though it doesn't necessarily play into this format as much as it will into the conference championships, kind of that preview of which non-power 4 swimmers could find themselves kind of in that mix of potentially getting an NCAA invite based on their times from this weekend.
Mm-hmm. Right. And especially now that we have a new qualifying procedure, you can go find that on SwimSwam. I'm not going to get into it, but it will make things a little more exciting. Again, a big part of that qualifying procedure is that if you win a conference title, you are automatically qualified for NCAAs, which most of the time that's the case anyway, but could affect one or two swimmers. But yeah, I think this will this will set the stage in a very exciting way for just what the landscape will look like moving into that conference season.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see kind of what comes out of it. And I think it's going to be a really fast weekend.
I couldn't agree more, Nicole. Thank you so much for being here and getting into the breakdown with me. Thank you so much for everyone for listening and watching. Head to SwimSwam for all of the coverage for all of these mid-season meets this weekend.